And Malcolm Roberts, I mean, we've now heard this week that members of parliament are not actually an essential service. And I'll get Bromwell's take on it as a former speaker, but I actually think this is close to a breach of parliamentary privilege. I mean, it's extraordinary to me that a state government who hasn't even met, hasn't got any other authority other than the ones they've given themselves, have said that constituents can't talk to their members of parliament. I guess they can talk online. At the same time as Victoria becomes 13th worst in the world when it comes to its outbreak of coronavirus. Madagascar and Angola are only making them look slightly better. I mean, there's something seriously adrift here, Malcolm Roberts.
Yes, I agree with you, Gary. And look, I want to compliment you for your introduction. It is exactly what's needed, and you hit the nail on the head. Trust. And that's what we're missing. When we go to Taiwan, South Korea, Israel, they trust their leaders. Sure, all those countries are under continuous threat and have learned to live with it and to manage and be ready, but they have learned because their leaders are trustworthy. And what we've got is, in this country, we've had the rightful priority being put on human lives. But in Taiwan, for example, they have put a priority on human lives that is such that they've had 7 fatalities in the time we've had 250. And Taiwan has a similar population to Australia, 24 million. They're close to mainland China. They have a lot of interaction with mainland China. And so they had the virus earlier, and they had the virus more frequently. And they're also much higher density population because they've got 24 million people squeezed into a tiny island. 7 deaths. And what they did was they did the proper quarantining process. I heard from someone that the term quarantine comes from the island near Venice. And that's where sailors used to go and passengers used to go if they were sick. And they would stay there until they were cured or proven that they didn't have a disease. What we've done, Gary, is the reverse of quarantining. We've isolated everyone. We've shut down everyone. Taiwan didn't. They put in a massive testing program, a massive tracing program without invading people's privacies, and they put in quarantining. So what they've done, and what Israel has done, what South Korea has done, is isolated the sick, isolated the vulnerable, and let everyone else get back to work. And even though Taiwan's main economy, main customers are North America and Europe, who have been decimated by coronavirus, they themselves have hardly missed a beat economically. Same with South Korea. And what I'm saying is that by having a proper plan, trustworthy leadership, and honestly sharing the data, sharing the plan with people, then these people have got behind their plan, and they've had a much, much more effective control of the virus, much less fatalities, and a bubbling economy. I mean, this is what happens when you trust leaders.
Yeah, and Bronwyn Bishop, and trust is a two-way street. Well, I've said this plenty of time on this program, that people don't trust politicians because politicians don't trust the leaders. I mean, Daniel Andrews is fudging the figures, does not even know, can't give any guarantee. There's all sorts of questions about whether data's been held back. But this business of members of parliament not being able to actually conduct their business with their constituents, I think is extraordinary. But the point, Bronwyn, here is that Daniel Andrews owns this. From word one, Scott Morrison said all of this stuff about borders, all of this stuff about stage 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, belongs to the premiers. It's not the prime ministers, it's the premiers, because they're using their state health acts as they see fit. Andrews has stuffed the economy. So as every Australian is going to get a share of it, $12 billion off in the next quarter. That's a lot of money.
Gary, the way in which the National Cabinet has been structured has created enormous problems. It has elevated those premiers to be the equal of the Prime Minister, which is not the way our Federation has functioned. And we are not a collection of mini nations on a continent. We are a federation where we have a Commonwealth government and we have premiers of individual states. Now, I was just appalled when the federal government pulled out of supporting the case being brought by Clive Palmer in Western Australia because Section 92 was put there into the Constitution to ensure that we remained a single nation. It's not a grand trading agreement. We are a single nation with shared values, with shared laws, with shared aspirations. And this is breaking down because we've got premiers who are behaving as if they are potentates of a little nation. So we've created this problem. Now, rolling it back is going to be enormously difficult. But in the meantime, what we have to see is from our federal leadership, we need to see, particularly from the federal leadership, the way forward. We need to see action that they can take that shows the Australian people a roadmap of where we're going to go, which is why I keep saying we need cheap electricity, so get out of Paris. That sends a big signal. It says what we intend to do.
Yep.
I say get out of that submarine contract, because it is a waste of money for us to say we can wait till 2035 to have new submarines. We can't. This whole area that we're in is becoming more and more volatile. Socialism always ends in tears, and that's what President Xi is going to end up having us in tears because of what he is doing.
Well,
they can't feed their own people.
As I said...
And we need...
as I said at the...
Yeah.
Go on.
Yes, well, I just wanted to say, if what I have said, get out of that contract, get 2 new... and lease... Virginia-class nuclear submarines from the United States. Show that we've got good interoperability and we have some real firepower. Keep our other submarines going. But then cut taxes, as you said right at the beginning. Show that there is a determined effort to allow people to, again, create businesses to employ people and start cutting the red tape. I've heard terrible stories about down in the areas where the bushfires ravaged the south coast of New South Wales, that they're having to spend $10,000 for environmental purposes before they can rebuild their houses.